When I was 16, I turned 16 and I left my mother's house. And so we sat down and agreed together, because I wasn't going to obey the rules. It was best for me to leave, okay? And that was a mutual agreement between my mom and I. And she was a very strict person. And I was very afraid of her for many, many years. And then when I turned 16, I just went nuts and took what felt like taking my power back. And so, we mutually agreed I wasn't going to obey the rules, so I needed to leave. And so took to the streets, and growing up in the treacherous ghettos of Chicago, and lived on the streets for a couple of years, really, before I learned how to take care of myself. Lived in gambling houses and would sleep on the L train from one end of the line to the other, sleeping on the gambling tables. And when I was 16, I was a doorman at the Whole House on 47th Street in Chicago, and so I grew up around all of this treachery, and from age 16 to 22 became a part of that treachery. But God was kind enough to take care of me through all of that. I think finally when I turned the latter part of my 18th year or 19th year, I finally learned how to take care of myself, and I maintained my own apartment and paid my rent. I was still a dishonest student in the University of Life's other side of the fence, but I was, being responsible, in that shadowy kind of way. And then when I turned 21, I met a woman and I fell in love with her, which I really didn't want to feel that way about anybody. I was a very hateful individual, and I had a lot of hatred toward women, actually, and hatred toward my mother. I mean, I had a lot to really move through. But I fell in love with this woman, and it was the way that the universe was working with me to slow me down. See, I had to come from where I was at to universal love, and I couldn't come straight from the treachery that I was in to universal love. So I had to come by way of human love. So I fell in love with this woman, and the relationship only lasted for 9 months, a period of gestation. And upon the culmination of that relationship, I stepped full on into my spiritual path. And I remember it was 1973, so it's been a while now. I've been walking my spiritual path for 45 years. And I remember it was 3 days before my 22nd birthday. And I would no longer do the things that I used to do to make money, because my whole energy had changed. This spiritual awakening happened. And all of my friends were of that street life. So I was like completely alone because, we didn't resonate, so I didn't hang out with them. And so I remember here I was, it was January 23rd, 1973. My rent was due. It was only $80. I had a little one room, space. It was $80 a month. I didn't even have that. I had $30 to my name, but I had this astrological chart done. And the chart kept saying I would benefit from an investigation of metaphysics and the occult, which I knew nothing about. But I had remembered there was an occult bookstore on the north side of Chicago. So I said, well, I don't have my rent, but I got $30. I'm going down to that store and buy me some books. I went down there and I spent $25 on books, and I kept $5 for myself. And I came back home and I started reading about 3 in the afternoon, and read from 3 in the afternoon till 5 o'clock the next morning, stopping only to have a little bite to eat and to do this thing that these books were talking about called meditation, which I instantly knew how to do. And everything that I read in these books, it was like, oh yeah, that's true, that's true, that's true, which I had always had this strange kind of knowledge and wisdom about myself, because for a long time I wasn't really scholastic. I, dropped out of school, second year of high school, wind up getting my GED and getting, a semester of college just to show myself I could do it if I wanted to. Became a straight A student in that, but then discovered I'm not going to work for anybody. I'm being an entrepreneur, so I don't really need to do that. So I let it go. But anyway, I just had this knowing. That's true, that's true, that's true, that's true. So it wasn't a questioning of the things that I was reading. It was just very matter of fact to me. So it was not like discovering something for the first time. It was like remembering something that I've always known. And so from there, I stepped onto my spiritual path and gave myself to the light into this path. My heart became full of love. In fact, it's probably good. I'll share with you the poem I wrote for that woman that I fell in love. I called her Mellow Mama. That was my nickname for her. So this poem I called Mellow Mama, and I said, once upon a time, I was very, very selfish, foolishly selfish with the gift of love. And then one day I met a little mellow mama who came to claim my love. She gave me all the love for which most people yearn, and I tried not to give love in return. Then one day it seemed that she was going away. I don't mean just somewhere here on earth, but away for a permanent stay. On that day, how to give love, I did learn for the continuation of her heart, for the continuation of her presence, that is, my heart did ceaselessly burn. On that day, I did realize Mellow Mama meant the world to me, and to think she had to almost leave here just for me to see. Through all of our relations, experiences, and endeavors, I was taught the lessons of love through pain, joy, and pleasure. Now I've learned how to truly love, and I did not know at first, for now not only do I love this little mellow mama, but I also love the whole universe. Thank you, Mellow Mama, for showing me the way to universal love, a love so deep, a love so high, a love from within and above, a love so powerful, a love so true, a love I learned through Mellow You. So she was a great catalyst for me. Because it was through falling in love with her, that things started to slow down enough for me to open my heart to the frequency of the light. And what's so beautiful when I look back at the times of treachery and all of that craziness, I mean, my heart is tender around anybody that I may have hurt. And at the same time, I just have absolute allowing and forgiving for myself, for the craziness. I'm grateful that it didn't last long. It was just from age 16 to 22. I call it my 6 years of insanity. And then the light came on. And so, I'm so honored to have been redeemed, to have come from that to this amazing being, ASTARIUS MIRACULI, that I am now. And with that being said, I also offer that kind of belief in every being. I believe that every being can be redeemed. And I think that it's important that we believe in each other in that way, because so often we don't believe that someone can be better. And then we become an accessory to their lack of betterment by offering our belief toward, the diminishment of who they are rather than the expansion into something greater. So I believe in the redemption of every being, and I encourage that we all believe that way. And that as a society we evolve and we grow and learn how to walk each other home together and make things better. Well, the didgeridoo came first. The didgeridoo came in 1995, and I had been playing a little bit of the drums, some congas and djembes, not real extensively. I never gave myself quite to the same extent to drums as I did to the didgeridoo. But I remember I was at a drum circle, and didgeridoo players were there, and so it was drums and didgeridoos. And then all of a sudden somebody said, okay, all the drums be quiet and just didgeridoos. And so 6 didgeridoos were going off at one time. So that was my first experience of a live didgeridoo, is hearing 6. So I think God wanted me to really get the message. And so I decided I'm going to buy one of those. And I found the man that was a great maker, and I looked at some of his instruments, and I said, I'm going to get back with you in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to buy one of those. So in the course of that 2 weeks, I'm working a whole life expo in Santa Fe, which is where I was living at the time. And I was doing Reiki as well as psychic astrology readings, and that's my oldest modality, psychic astrology, that I became professional in way back in 1981. Anyway, this man in the booth immediately across from me was an Aboriginal man by the name of Ash Dargan, in fact, and he was doing didgeridoo healings. And I said, oh, I knew I was going to buy one of those, and now I know what I'm going to do with it. So every step of the way, I was being shown. I played the didgeridoo for about 1 year when I had this mystical experience. I was at a friend's house that keeps bees, and I was with my beloved, and we went out by the beehives. The bees were coming and going and coming from the hive. I stood behind her, and I was playing the didgeridoo into her back. And Spirit called my name from the inside, says, Astarius. I said, yes. Now, it's not always that clear with Spirit, but this is one of those 2x4 over the head moments of clarity. And so I answer, but I'm still playing on her. And Spirit says, you're from the clan of the trumpet angels. And a light went off in every cell of my being. And I had this instantaneous understanding of why I'd had such a profound experience with the didgeridoo at that time, playing for just a year. I was excited about telling her what I'd gotten. Didn't stop playing on her right away. But when I did stop, before I could tell her what I'd gotten, she looked at me and she says, oh my God, I just seen the biggest angel Deva I've ever seen. So God gave me the message in two different ways. Let me clairaudiently hear, I'm from the clan of the trumpet angels, and clairvoyantly showed her the angel. So all of the things that I do with sacred sound is by virtue of my clan. And the clan of the trumpet angels are a clan of angels who are the keepers of all the sacred sounds, all of the instruments. They taught me that prior to the didgeridoo being passed to the tribal aborigines of Australia, prior to any material expression of the didgeridoo, the clan of the trumpet angels are the keeper of that. But all instruments. They taught me that didgeridoo is not that tube that the sound comes through. Didgeridoo is the sound itself that's coming through, and that instrument is its body. If one is playing the harp is not that thing that they pluck on. Harp is the sound frequency coming from it, and that what's being plucked upon is its body. Same thing with drum and, piano, flute, whatever, because all these sounds are celestial sounds in the higher realm before physicality, before there was a physical need of material instrumentation to produce those sounds. So this is who I've learned from. I played the didgeridoo for 1.5 or so years before the vocal harmonics came in. Then I decided, okay, I want to do vocal harmonics as masterfully as I play the didgeridoo. At that time, it was a really tall order because I went so far and fast with the didgeridoo. But then, now I do them equally. So with the vocal harmonics, like, that's producing simultaneous highs and lows with one voice. The highs represent heaven and the lows represent earth. So it's then creating a marriage of heaven and earth in the cells of the body. Now, sound is the primordial first cause. As in the scripture, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. Well, the Word is also resonant with sound. Sound is the frequency by which all things have found their way into being. You see, and so sound is so powerful in that it has a foot in both dimensions simultaneously. It has a foot in the realm of spirit. You can't grab a handful of it and say, I got a handful of this sound. See, so it's definitely of spirit, and it also has a foot in the physical realm because you can hear it with a physical ear. So it is a liaison between the physical and the non-physical. When I produce sound, it's carrier waves of consciousness that trigger a remembering of that which we've forgotten about the absoluteness of our selfhood. See, we came into this physical experience, and we are that part of God that chose to take on the experiment of coming into the flesh and even tasting of forgetfulness. We even knew when we were on those higher planes, getting ready to come into physicality, we're probably going to forget who we are. We knew it. But in the infinite wisdom of our universal divinity, we left the greater expanse of who we are, standing in the circle of eternity, remembering for us what we were probably going to forget when we entered into some of the nightmare of the earth dream.